Welcome to the Inner Compass podcast show. I am your host, Jackson Ogo, and thank you for joining us on this episode of the Inner Compass podcast show. In this episode, we will be discussing the present moment. What is the present moment? How do we define the present moment? How do we distinguish between being truly present and merely going through the motions? What prevents you from fully engaging with what's in front of you? And how can one apply themselves to embrace the present moment? Before we get going, we need to define what is the moment. In physics, a moment typically refers to a turning effect of a force about a specific point or axis, otherwise known as torque. And a simple example of what torque force is the further you push, the greater the torque, making it easy to come and go. Now, some philosophical discussions describe the moment or living in the moment as a concept of being fully present in the present time, focusing on the immediate experience rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. And if you ask people nowadays to define the moment, some may say YOLO, you only live once, or others may describe it as being present in conversations, experiencing activities, or even just appreciating the environment around us. Now ask yourself, have you ever had an experience where you were totally in the moment without any distractions? What usually pulls you away from the present? Is it worry, maybe regret, or technology? How often do you slow down and truly pay attention to your surroundings? Do you actively listen in conversations, or are you thinking about what you want to say next? Generally, we assume that the world just exists, that it's just sitting there, dead and meaningless, the object of our perceptions. The world doesn't just exist, it shows up. It presents itself to us through layers of interpretations. The world shows itself through layers of meaning, understanding, conceptualizations, interpretations, and/or intentions. What we perceive as the world is not the thin surface of reality, but rather an active, ever-shifting, interpretive blanket which we interact with at all times. How do we distinguish between being fully present in the moment versus merely going through the motions? The difference between the two comes down to three key factors: awareness, engagement, and emotional connection. When it comes to awareness, it is important to distinguish between being aware in the moment versus being on autopilot in the moment. When you're aware, you are actively aware of your surroundings, sensations, and emotions. You notice details, how the air feels, how the texture of your food tastes, and/or the tone of someone's voice. But when you're on autopilot, you act out of habit or routine, often without noticing or remembering details of what you just did. An example of this, you can say, would be drinking coffee. When you drink coffee while being aware, you're savoring the aroma and the warmth of the coffee, versus when you're on autopilot, you're drinking it absent-mindedly while you're scrolling through your phone or being distracted by other forms of technology. The second factor to help distinguish being truly in the present versus merely going through the motions is your level of engagement. Engagement versus disinterest. When you're engaged in the present, you are emotionally and mentally engaged in what you're doing. Conversations feel meaningful and you actively listen rather than waiting to speak. But when you're disinterested and merely just going through the motions, you interact passively, responding out of obligations rather than genuine interest. An example of this would be laughing at a joke because you genuinely find it funny versus forcing a chuckle to be polite. The third factor to help distinguish between being present in the moment or merely going through the emotions is your level of emotional involvement. When you're emotionally involved in the present, you experience emotions fully, whether it's joy, sadness, or excitement, without suppressing or avoiding any one of them. But when you're going through the emotions, you're numb and you feel flat or disconnected, as if you're just checking off a task. An example of this would be feeling deeply moved by music versus having it play as a background noise without noticing the content of the music. At the end of each day, ask yourself, do you remember meaningful moments, conversations of that day, or does it feel like everything was a blur? Your answer to this question will determine how present minded you were that day. Most of us have been trained to imagine that our dreams, aspirations, and fears exist inside of us, that they drive us to action as forces that comes from our inner being, our mind, or our psyche. This is certainly one way to think about it, but another equally valid interpretation of our experience is that all of these supposedly internal experiences arise as part of the immediately experienced present. They are a part of this and every moment that's not a part of us. The question to ask yourself is, what prevents you from fully engaging with what's in front of you? While the answer to this question may vary between each one of us, there are a few factors in consideration when answering this question. The first factor to consider may be why one may not be able to be fully engaged in the present is distractions, something that we all experience. When it comes to distractions, whether it's technology, noise, or even just multitasking, distractions can pull us away from fully experiencing what's happening right now. A second factor you can say would be overthinking. When you're constantly thinking about the past or worrying about the future, it is hard to focus on the present moment. Anxiety and stress can make this even worse. Then comes judgment or expectations, something that we all carry with us every day. Sometimes we get caught up in how we think things should be done or how we think others should perceive us. This can make it difficult to just experience things without trying to control them or judge them. Emotional turmoil, which may come from judgment or expectations, may also come up when we're dealing with the strong emotions such as anger, sadness, fear. It's easy for those feelings to take over and pull us out of the present. Another factor that keeps us out of being in the present would be physical comfort, whether it's pain, hunger, or tiredness, or other physical sensations can make it harder to be mindful in the moment. And finally, habitual thought patterns. Our brains are wired to have certain thought patterns, and sometimes we get stuck in a loop of thinking about what's next or what went wrong instead of staying grounded in what's happening. It's important to keep in mind that when distinguishing between being fully in the moment versus merely going through the motions, that being present in the moment involves letting go of distractions, not overthinking things, and embracing whatever you're doing or feeling at that present time. What's in your control is within your control. What's outside of your control is outside of your control. How can one apply themselves to embrace the present moment? Meaning, what can I do daily, weekly to help practice my mind, my body, my soul to help me be present in this moment? Embracing the moment is a practice that takes time and effort, but there are several different ways to make this more accessible and natural in your life. Here are a few strategies that you can apply to your life daily. Number one on the list is mindfulness, which I'm sure we've all heard at some point of our lives. But what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the practice of paying full attention to what's happening right now without judgment. It involves observing your thoughts, feelings, and environment as they are without trying to change them. So, how do we go about practicing mindfulness? Start by paying attention to your breath. Notice the sensation of breathing in and out. Whenever your mind wanders, gently bring your focus back to your breath. You can also apply mindfulness to activities such as working out, eating, walking, or even washing the dishes. Second on the list is gratitude or practicing gratitude. Being grateful helps you stay connected to the present moment and appreciate what you have right now. Now, the way that we go about it, take a moment each day to reflect on something you're grateful for in the present moment, no matter how small. You can also keep a gratitude journal where you jot down things you appreciate each day right next to your nightstand. One way that I like to approach gratitude as soon as I wake up is that as soon as I wake up and I recognize that I'm in the same place I was yesterday when I fell asleep, I appreciate the first breath in my lungs. I appreciate the first light in my eye. I appreciate the texture of the bedding of my bed. And I just appreciate everything that is what it still is. And that's nothing has changed. I take that and I'm extremely grateful for, because I know that every hour, every minute, every second, somebody's lives is changing and their circumstances is changing. But in this moment, nothing has changed. So I'm extremely grateful for what this moment has brought to me. Third on the list is noticing your thoughts and emotions, being internally aware of your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own compromises. So what does it mean? Being aware of your thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them, which will help you stay grounded in the present. When you get angry and you self-check yourself and you identify what that feeling is, anger, then you could start the work to find out what made you angry. Was it something of that day? Was it something from the day before? Is it a pressure that you carry going into a future? Being aware of that emotion in that moment is your first step to being mindful. Now, how do you go about doing it? When you notice yourself drifting into thoughts about the past or the future, acknowledge them without warning, acknowledge them without judgment. You can even say, I am having a thought about X, and then return to your focus in the present. So identifying that emotion, identifying how this emotion is making you feel, is the first step to you separating that emotion from what you presently feel in this moment, or your present experience in this moment. Finally, we come down to expectations, or letting go of expectations. Expectations can keep you trapped in thoughts about the future or in judgment about the past. Expectations, how I describe it, it's like you're in a cage cell. Now, the cage of the cell has bars all around it, but there's a door that's wide open. But still, you feel like you're trapped by the cage and you're not seeing the door that you can easily walk out of. How do we go about letting go of expectations? Try to approach each moment without thinking about what should happen. Let go of the need to control things and allow them to unfold naturally. Embrace whatever happens, even if it's a different way from your own expectations. The key to all of this, to practicing mindfulness, practicing gratitude, taking a notice of your thoughts and emotions, or even letting go of expectations, comes down to consistency and persistence. You got to try to do it, and you have to try consistently to get better at it. It is normal to drift in and out of the present moment, but with regular practice, you'll find yourself becoming more present, more and more over time. But note that this work all takes place within yourself. This is all work that you have control of, and everything outside of yourself you don't have control of. Once you're able to calibrate yourself to deal with life circumstances, then when life circumstances hit, you already have a direction on how you need to deal with it. As we wrap up today's episode, I encourage you to reflect on the moments that make up your day. Are you truly present in them, or are you merely going through the motions? The practice of embracing the present moment takes intention, awareness, and patience, but it's something we can all cultivate. By letting go of distractions, reducing judgment, and staying open to the fullness of our experiences, we can create a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. So as you move forward today, take a moment to pause, breathe, and really be where you are. Thanks for joining me on this journey and on the second episode of the Inner Compass podcast show. I hope you found this information informative and that it will lead to many meaningful moments ahead. On our next episode, we will discuss embracing your presence, to fully accept and embrace who you are in the present moment. Until next time, my friends, stay present.